Hello and good afternoon. What is this? Conversation 2? Congratulations. Our midterms are done. I'm happy to say. Finished yesterday. Or Friday. It's not yesterday. Today's Sunday. As you know, I sent a message out to tell you I didn't have time to record because of the crazy schedule during midterms. For some reason, Chungnam doesn't like to give a midterm break. In my university, there's always a week off for you to take your tests and do some studying, but we just plow right through it, so it gets pretty hectic for everyone. Anyway, our class is done. I hope your other midterms are going well, or they have gone well. This is the last online lecture I'm going to do for the semester because we did take 2 weeks to do our testing. So to avoid missing a class, I'm doing this because we didn't have time on Friday, if you remember my explanation. So today is chapter 7. We're gonna do the remaining 4 topics in the next 5 weeks. And it is week 9. The book title, the chapter title is How Do You Stay Healthy? But I'm gonna just call this lecture Health Issues because I don't want to just talk about how to stay healthy. I want to talk about various aspects of health. I think this is a very relevant topic because we've dealt with COVID for the last couple of years, but more than that, it's actually normal throughout human history to have to deal with diseases on a regular basis. Depending on what country you're from, you may have been more or less exposed to disease. Some of these diseases are very dangerous and very rare, and some of them are less dangerous and very common. This is the thing that everybody has to realize, is that diseases are everywhere and they come in different forms. And we have to deal with them in different ways. Recently, there's been a lot of misinformation, and the internet has facilitated the sharing of information, whether it's good information or bad or helpful or not. So I think it's even more important to have these discussions, in university with your professor and with your fellow students as you get educated. To be skeptical about some things and to, get credible sources of information rather than just following what other people say and what other people do. I'm not saying you need to be an expert or that you can't make decisions on your own. I'm just saying you should probably be critical and be skeptical about information that doesn't have much proof to it, okay? So we're gonna talk about this in a general sense, and we're gonna talk about it in a specific sense. But in particular, there's been a lot of disagreement about various things related to health recently because of the coronavirus being such a highly contagious disease, which, because it infects so many people, has the potential to kill many people. It isn't really a lethal disease compared to HIV or Ebola or what else is a good example? SARS, right? Some diseases kill, upwards of 10% of the people they infect, or 20% or 30%. It's not like the Black Death, which I've talked about in our British and American culture class, that wipes out 30% of the entire population. These are incredibly high death rates. But we also have medical care, healthcare on a level that is never before existed. At the same time, we also enable the virus to spread at a pace never before possible either. So, coronavirus 200 years ago might have started, let's say it started in China, not to say it might not have started somewhere else, but let's say the same scenario. It started in China 200 years ago. How long would it take to get around the world? It wouldn't have taken a few weeks or a few days. It would have taken probably months or years in order to reach all corners of the earth. But as you saw with the coronavirus, it got detected. The first day it was detected in Korea was like one day before or one day after the United States. And then, simultaneously almost, cases started popping up all over the place. But, the real numbers, the real waves didn't infect. Even with globalization, the waves came at a slower or faster pace, depending on how interconnected a country was. Korea locked down pretty hard. And yesterday I saw a screenshot I took. 1 year ago at the end of April, we had 0 domestic cases in Korea. We had absolutely clamped down on coronavirus so hard that we had 0 cases one day. Isn't that remarkable? Compared to what I saw exactly 1 year later in 2022 was 43,000, 50,000. And 2021, it was 0. So things change. Things change all the time. How to manage your health is not going to change as much as you think. There's going to be some baseline things that you talk about, and then there's some specific things. And as I've told you before, when you're talking about topics like this, you have to sort of think about the idea, how you're going to approach the topic. I thought the midterm interviews were very good. There's students from different countries and different backgrounds. There's men and women, people from Bangladesh and people from Uzbekistan and Vietnam and Korea, and everybody had their own approaches to the questions, and they were very well done for the most part. We'll talk about what things need to be worked on. Of course, all of you had different accents, which is very interesting to listen to, but some of you have particular sounds that cause words to sound different, a little bit confusing. So the pronunciation for Koreans or other international students is always something that I'm going to address, because my pronunciation is Canadian or neutralized somewhat by being a teacher for a long time. So as I told you before, accents are not something that you need to destroy or kill or erase because they're cool. But you can soften your accent a little bit so that when you're trying to communicate, the person doesn't misunderstand what you say. That's my point. So let's talk, when we're going to talk about health today, let's just separate health into 3 aspects, okay? You have your mental health, you have your physical health, and you have your emotional health. That's not the only way of breaking down, how healthy you are, but I'm just doing it this way just to simplify the lecture. During the coronavirus, without interaction with people and using digital, communication and social media rather than getting outside and actually having something to communicate with, something to sort of feel. I think the mental aspect actually has been the hardest for most people to deal with. The feeling that you're trapped and that you're unable to do things. Nobody likes that anyway, right? Nobody likes it when your parents tell you have to stay home and you're not allowed to go out this weekend and you can't go play with your friends, or you can't go, to an amusement park, or you can't go on a camping trip. I don't know what you like to do. Go out to the bar in Gungdong and hang out with your friends. When people say you can't do that, your parents say that, or basically school dictates that because you have too much work to do, it makes you feel bad, right? It makes you feel like it's a sort of depressed type feeling, right? It makes you feel inactive and trapped and maybe frustrated, stressed out. And during midterms, you probably got a little bit of that, but maybe midterms, I think during coronavirus, the midterms didn't seem to me as bad because I didn't have to like shut myself in my office and then for a week or two to prepare the exams and then grade them and then like be free again. I just knew that I was going to be shut in my office for my entire semester. So the maybe it's the same for you. Now midterms, I was talking to some students and the midterms seem more stressful than last semester because the weather is beautiful outside and we're allowed to go out. The curfew is gone. The cafes are open. The weather is beautiful. You can meet your friends and you still might get sick, but the danger is lessened. So, your mental health might be under more pressure this midterm season than usual. So, I mean, how can you manage that? How can you deal with those kind of things? Well, the first thing is that I've learned, and I've been incredibly stressed this semester because I always have too many classes, but I'm trying to do my PhD at the same time, so I'm a student as well. The only way I can prevent becoming mentally destroyed, mentally ruined by my workload and my deadlines is to do them in advance. Right now I'm recording your lecture. This morning I spent my whole morning doing my PhD paper. If I don't do it in advance, if I try and do it the night before, the pressure and the fatigue causes me a lot of suffering. So this is related to, I think I wrote it up here. Over on this side. This is related to a schedule of having a routine, right? The textbook actually talks about body parts and exercise first, identifying body parts, but we're going to skip that part, right? If you want to, talk about, this is another topic that we're going to deal with for the final exam interview. So if you want to talk about stretching and you want to talk about the proper way to exercise, that's fine. I'm not going to cover that because I have other things to talk about. One of them is what is your schedule? What is your routine? You can have an extremely busy schedule and still be mentally healthy. This is what I'm attempting to do this semester, and what I try to do every semester is I have a very tight schedule and it's very organized, but it's balanced. It's balanced. It's perfectly balanced. The problem with it is it can become unbalanced very easily. It certainly depends on other factors, right? So it depends on my family, that they are organized also. It depends on my professors. If they give me assignments too late or don't inform me of what's going on, I can't do my work. There's no room because I'm completely booked. There's no free time in my schedule. I mean, I have my scheduled free time. That's Saturday. Saturday all day. I don't touch any sort of work. And you may notice that you don't get responses from your emails on Saturday. That's because the only day I don't work. I work all day today on Sunday. I work all day from Monday to Friday. Saturday, I spend time with my family. And unless there's some kind of crazy project or emergency, that's the time that I refresh myself. And it's not by sleeping in my bed all day. I got up at 6:30 yesterday, like usual, and then I spent my whole day playing outside, basically. I need that time, right? I need that time. And you will probably find in university, some students, their schedule gets unbalanced. You might have too much free time, or you might be up at strange hours. A lot of students that I've talked to you know, they've had some issues with the class, like they're not doing their homework, or they missed a midterm, or some other problem. Usually that's because there is some sort of unbalanced situation where maybe you're staying up until 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then you're sleeping until you get up for class, like you're just becoming nocturnal or something. That sleeping pattern can affect it. Maybe you're sleeping too much. Maybe you're sleeping too little. Maybe you have a different schedule every day. Maybe some days you go to bed early and some days you go to bed late. Some days you have a part-time job. Some days you don't. Like, there's no consistency to your schedule. There's no routine, right? A routine means something that's repeated. Routines can be boring. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to do the exact same thing every day, but the timing of things, that can be helpful obviously it's going to be helpful for you physically in a sense, but I think it's mental. And when the coronavirus restricted the things that we could do, the places we could go, the activities that were available, it messed with our routines in a bad way. It basically simplified everything so much that it was just, it became eat, sleep. For me, it became eat, sleep, work. But that play thing should be in there too. Now, I might add here, this is actually, I'm quoting myself from my British and American culture class, because there is a certain type of Christian, well, they're not a group. It was just a label. They were a radical Protestant group in England in the late 16th century and and throughout the 17th century. They eventually made their way over to America and settled in New England. The most famous area is Massachusetts and Boston. The people that live there, the culture of New England is a sort of inherited from this really strict religious Protestant Christian group, and they believed not in the eat, sleep, work, play, but pray. It's almost the same word. You only change one letter, but it's significantly different. They didn't like playing. They didn't like luxurious clothes. They didn't like drinking or partying or birthdays or any sort of real kind of excessive pleasure or luxury. They believed that life should be simple. It involved hard work, studying of the Bible, but being healthy. Okay, but I wonder how mentally healthy these people were. They were committed and they were tough, but like, were they mentally healthy or not? It's hard to say, but I would say less so, because this is sort of the opposite side. If you play too much, you're going to eventually be unhealthy, right? All work and no play makes Jeremy a dull boy. That is true. But if Jeremy only plays and never does his work, he's going to be a poor boy, and he's not going to be unhealthy because he's not going to exercise. He's not going to be productive. He's not going to eat healthy food and sleep properly if he just plays all the time. I know that because I've been sick a few times in my life, basically only because I, lost control of myself when I was in university and just didn't take care of myself properly, didn't eat properly, didn't sleep properly, didn't exercise, and I got really sick several times. It's only happened to me a couple times in my life, and it really was a result of my lifestyle, making myself vulnerable because I was being excessive. And that's what the Puritans believed. These people were called the Puritans. They believed that it was a tempting thing to drink too much alcohol. Don't drink alcohol at all, because if you drink it, you'll drink too much. Don't have parties, or don't be lazy, or don't dance, because dancing's so fun. If you start to love dancing, you'll just dance all the time and you won't do any work on the farm. So their solution was don't do anything. They're really like a sort of extremely deficient in their idea. So actually, my mother says this. She said it to me when I was young. Her favorite I hope that can be seen. One of her favorite sayings was everything in moderation. Right? Everything, be balanced in everything. Right? Not too much, not too little. This is actually when I was a fourth year student, I wrote my undergraduate thesis about this because it's also a virtue. It's called temperance. And the Puritans loved temperance, but their version actually of temperance was not true temperance, because temperance should be, have a drink, celebrate a birthday, celebrate Christmas, and do fun things, go dancing, play soccer or play computer games, but don't play too much. But actually the Puritan ideology was don't do it at all. Don't do it at all, which is not moderation, that's deficiency. That's, restrictive, right? To the point. And I think that's part of what happened to us in COVID. It wasn't like we could just do something a little. It was like we couldn't do some things at all, right? For a while. And it just feels good to be able to do things now. But the thing you have to watch now is, since you haven't been able to do things for a while, don't do them too much, right? For me, I'm older, so for example, if I go and I haven't played hockey in a year, if I go and play hockey without getting in shape a little bit and stretching and maybe only playing half the game or not playing as hard as I can, what's going to happen is I'm going to end up in the hospital because I'm going to rip my muscles or break some of my bones because my body is not ready to play hockey every week for 2 hours every Saturday night. It's not prepared. As you can see, I've gained a lot of weight. Maybe your situation is different. You're younger, but the same kind of thing is true. Like if you haven't gone out with your friends and you haven't gone out to the restaurants very much, or you haven't gone traveling very much, and you just do it a lot without controlling yourself, then maybe you're going to spend too much money, or maybe you're going to get sick, or whatever. Excess is also something that you have to watch out for. This balance, between doing things and not doing things and controlling yourself is a part of our mental health, right? When you have a disorder, when you have some sort of serious mental problem, that's really what happens, is that your mental state is you're not able to function in a normal way, in a healthy way on a day-to-day basis, because you're not able to handle things mentally, right? That's the definition of a mental disorder. So, but everybody has their moods, everybody has their ups and downs, but if it's really serious, if you have a serious mental health problem, you may have developed, or you may have already, you may be developing some sort of mental disorder. We do have counselors, especially since this is an international class. There are counselors, some of them speak English. I know because I'm also a student here. So if you do need to talk to somebody, you can get some counseling as an international student. And of course, Korean students already have that service, so you can talk to somebody. I'm not a psychologist, but my minor is psychology, so I'm aware of how important these things are. I'm not licensed to be a counselor or anything, but you can always talk to your professor if you have a problem too. So keep that in mind. Now the physical aspect, I think all of us know, all of us struggle with various things. It depends on your lifestyle. We've talked about in this class lots of different topics so far. I don't think this class talked about sports, but I do know that there's several students in this class who are in the badminton class. And just being active in some way. You don't have to love sports, but you need to not sit in a chair all day. Don't be sedentary. How do I spell that? Sedentary. Don't be sedentary. All human beings used to be nomads. We all are, not all of us, but the majority of human beings are settled peoples. We're sedentary. We stay in one place, but we're getting worse and worse. Now we don't even walk places because we have cars and e-bikes and e-scooters, and we don't really so we don't need to ride bicycles with our own energy, and we don't need to walk necessarily. You can just move yourself everywhere and sit down all the time, and this is very unhealthy. This is not the way your body is supposed to be. That's not the natural state of your body. The natural state of your body, it should be moving often. You lay down and you sleep at night, and during the day you should be moving as often as possible. Our ancestors didn't just like sit down in the jungle for 10 hours looking at a tree. But that's essentially what you're doing when you're sitting looking at your phone or sitting looking at a screen of any kind. So the biggest thing about our physical health is the fact that we don't move enough. Even if you're just sitting, even when we're teaching class, I look at you guys sometimes and you're sitting there for 45 minutes or an hour and it's too long. Like I read somewhere long ago, and I was reading some sort of thing with my mother because I started to have neck problems in my 20s, which is pretty early to have neck problems. And then it's never going to go away. But I played lots of sports and I have a slip disc in my neck. So it's partly because I played too many computer games. It's partly because I have a bad neck, maybe genetically. It's partly because I played contact sports. I played hockey and I played American football and I played whatever. I went skiing, crashed a bunch of times. So my neck's been hurt a lot. And, there was some article, not a blog, not a news thing, an article that was showing that it was a research article related to, some grad student had done some research and they had found that if a person just got up and looked around, stood up and moved and stretched once every 20 minutes, that it would alleviate a lot of body pain. Like the results from people who practiced that routine versus the people who just sat in their chair for hours at a time all day at work or studying, they reported much less discomfort. And so I try to do that as much as possible. And you will notice whether I'm teaching you online or whether I'm teaching you in the classroom, I'm almost always moving and standing. And I don't stand in one place for too long either. Never as long as 20 minutes, because it's not good for your joints, and it's not good for your back, and it's not good for your neck, right? So don't be too sedentary. Don't get stuck in your seat. Emotional health is another one. It's important. You might call this social, the social aspect of it. Like you need people in your life, or you need, if you don't like people that much, you need something. I mean, some people just like nature, they like animals, some people like cats. If you want to be a cat lady or a cat man that just hangs out with cats all the time. But human beings don't normally want to be completely isolated. And so that can affect you emotionally. It can make you depressed. It can make you unhappy, frustrated. It can make you get angry easily, or it can just make you lazy or unmotivated. So make sure you take care of your emotional health too. It's important. It's important to be happy. It's important. You're not going to be happy all the time, but you want to be stable. And for the most part, you want to be positive. If you find yourself feeling negative emotions all the time, then your emotional health has to be addressed too. I think that's also very important. It's connected to your body and your mind and your mental state, but it's another thing. Your emotions are the way you feel, and you can eat healthy food and you can have a good routine and you can still be unhappy, right? So you got to find a way to have a balance in your emotional life as well. in terms of what you want to talk about, you can talk about treatments of various kinds. Well, we have all this kind of medicine now. We have too much medicine because some of the medicine we don't actually need, right? Some people are taking medicine unnecessarily. Some people don't have it when they need it. We've got a business, since we have Asian business students here. We have a medical industry, and we have a pharmaceutical business, and using medicine as a treatment carefully is very important. You can easily take too many drugs or not enough, and you saw this when we had coronavirus too. All this stuff about the vaccines, people like, do they trust the companies? Do they trust the scientists? Is the information correct? Is it better if I don't have it? Would my body be healthier without the vaccine, or having natural immunity? All this kind of stuff. Well, in general, I mean, the data is still going to be gathered, and there's still going to be arguments and research done about the coronavirus. But the bottom line is that the virus has killed millions of people, perhaps 15 million people, and that the vaccine has probably saved an equal number of people. We've probably saved 15 million people by having hundreds of millions of people vaccinated. Now, how many people have died from the vaccine itself? Very few. Nothing compared to 15 million. Like 1 in a million of the deaths have been, right? And when it comes to the chance of you dying from the vaccine, it's kind of like a side effect. It's a reaction. And that's the same thing for, let's be honest, that's the same thing for every medicine. Just take a bottle, even a bottle of Tylenol, and it says it's a painkiller, and you take it for a headache. It says on it, if you have an allergic reaction, if you have diarrhea, if you start vomiting, if you have a fever, or you start shaking, or you get red rings all over your body, stop taking this medicine and go to the emergency room. Every medicine has possible side effects because every human being has a different immune system. We're unique individuals, and we respond to disease. That's why some people die from the coronavirus and some people don't feel sick at all. How do we know, though, which ones can be vaccinated and which ones can't? You can't refuse to take a treatment because you don't know, right? That's the way it is. It's like going outside and you might get hit by lightning, right? Or you can never go outside again because you know somebody who got struck by lightning. Is that what you're going to do? Because there is a 1 in 6 million chance of you getting struck by lightning. The chance is similar. So the reason that we're all healthy, basically, we got compared to the hundreds of years ago where everybody was dying all the time. I've never seen a dead body in my life. If I was in a war zone or I was in an undeveloped country, it would be much different. But we are fortunate. We have antibiotics. We have different kinds of medicine. We have antibiotics for bacteria, and we have specialized doctors who can do surgery. Where's my surgery? And we have well-trained counselors and medical doctors that can give us therapy. We have scientists and nutritionists that can help us with our diet. And so we don't die usually. The number of people who live to old age is very high. Vaccines are part of that. They have been part of that for more than 100 years. When we got these vaccines and people started not dying from dangerous diseases like tuberculosis and rubella and polio, it was a miracle. So it still is. It's a miracle, right? That doesn't mean that all medical treatments are necessary, and it doesn't mean that you need medical treatment to be healthy. In fact, you try to be healthy before, right? The medicine is really what you need when you aren't healthy. That's one of the things about vaccinations that a lot of people are resistant to. It's right? It's kind of counterintuitive. I'm healthy, so why should I get a needle? Why should I inject something into my body if I'm healthy? I'm 20 years old. I'm not overweight. I have no history of, heart problems or breathing problems or anything, why should I have an injection then? Well, my answer to that is I'm 40. I'm not in perfect health, but I'm healthy enough that I don't get sick almost ever. But I got my shots is because other people are not as fortunate as me. You don't get the vaccine for yourself. You get the vaccine for society, right? If you don't have a healthy society, you're not going to be a healthy individual. That's the bottom line here. So when you answer me, I liked the creative answers that you gave in your midterm. So I don't think I need to give you too much guidance there, but look at all the different aspects here. I wrote down a few things that I never got to here, but there are chemicals in everything. We always make this distinction between natural things and artificial things, but the reality is that our entire lives are covered in chemicals, and some of them are natural and some of them are not. There are natural, and there's inorganic chemistry and there's organic chemistry, right? We make chemicals, that's right. But everything is made of chemicals. So is your body. Okay? So it's not necessarily a good thing. A natural chemical is not necessarily a good thing, and an unnatural chemical is not necessarily a bad thing. These ideas, you have to keep them in mind. There's a lot of branding and labeling and distinctions that really don't have a lot of relevance in real life when it gets down to it. So naturopathic medicine, homeopathic medicine, these are useful treatments. Sometimes they get opposed to Western or Asian type treatment or scientific treatment. You have to be careful though. If you're going to take a natural approach, you might also have a natural death, right? Let me just give you a kind of wake-up call in that direction. Is, for example, if you have a really malignant type of cancer and you choose to treat it naturally, instead of having chemotherapy and radiation therapy and taking all those drugs that really, really weaken your body, but at the same time destroy the cancer, and doing surgery and everything else, using all of those techniques that we've developed to get rid of that dangerous mutation in your body. If you choose not to do that, and you take herbal medicine and you do all other things, take a rest and eat special food and all that stuff. Cancer is not an unnatural thing. Cancer is something that happens to animals and human beings naturally, right? It can be caused by chemicals and unnatural environment. If the environment has made you sick, but anybody can get cancer. Cancer is not a new thing. The cells get out of control and they start duplicating themselves and they grow out of control. It's like a mutated, out of control part of your body. And that if it's a type of cancer like blood cancer, bone cancer, skin cancer, lung cancer, and they're connected to other parts of the body, the cancer can easily spread and multiply. And if you don't catch it early, it grows, right? You're letting you need to use an artificial technique in most cases in order to survive cancer. So if you go with these options in the wrong situation, the wrong type of treatment for the type of disease or the type of situation you're in, the result will be your death, right? Sometimes you have to use unnatural means in order to prevent what's going to happen to you, which is die, right? In a lot of cases, what we used to call dying naturally, was like a heart attack or something, right? If you don't have a disease, but just your body stops working for some reason, that's a natural death. But we save people from that all the time now. So nature, not always good. Got to be careful about that. I did a lecture about this in my writing class too. There's this mistaken belief that in the American media, mostly because of celebrities, that they're promoting all nature is good. But we also know that hurricanes and volcanoes and meteors from outer space, tsunamis, those are all natural things too, right? And in fact, we have the diseases, many of them are natural diseases too. So we're not gonna just accept them just because they're natural, because they're not. They are dangerous, they're not safe, and they're not healthy for you. So in the book, they have a list of symptoms you can look at in chapter 7 too, if you want to describe. I didn't actually do this today, but I think the lecture is pretty much over. I focused this time on COVID, but sometimes I talk about my foot injury. I have various injuries, and those things are easy to talk about and explain, because you can talk about the pain and the treatment and the disease, and it's a very easy way to organize an answer. But I will see you next week. Anyway, so I can tell you my sad story about my foot next week, and that can give you an example, a personal example of how you can answer this question also. Okay? So have a look at chapter 7, and we'll, of course, next week, we'll take it up in the first half of class. I'll add a little bit to my lecture today, and you can have a chance to share your thoughts about health with your classmates also, okay? And that's all she wrote. I'll see you, what class is this Friday? I'll see you this Friday. So I believe it's Children's Day on Thursday. Enjoy your holiday, and I'll see you the next day for class Friday afternoon in our usual spot, 4, 5, 6, okay? Take care.